Today's game is a little bit cool because not only have I worked out how to put on OS on my widget and get a funny cat to accompany me as a mascot, I've found this really ridiculously high OS lobby and decided I wanted it in. I play probably off-peak, I guess, and so there's a little bit of a lack of lobbies to join when I'm looking, so this was the only lobby to join. Otherwise I probably would have opted out. Even I know my limits. So we're joined with some pretty high OS players here, including Juster5, Watch Me Do This, which is a pretty ballsy name, and someone called Team Help, which I find funny. Reminds me of a few things I've said in my time. And we've got Game in GG, which, yeah, a funny name. Lucy Love Lucy, I do really recognise from previous games, and is quite a good player. And they're just above me, so they're double the OS I am. But I feel like the 14 doesn't really do me justice. I just used to lose a lot of games for whatever reason. Probably because I was letting down the whole team. But now I actually know how to play the game, sort of. I feel like this legacy follows me around everywhere. By the way, my account's about 2 months old now, 3 months old. I'm still a relatively new player. I've invested enough in this game that I work out what's going on. And what I've worked out here, I've followed the helpful guide to come up and build, but it says build mexes along the way, which I would agree with, rather than going straight up to 10. But we see Red dismisses that advice and doesn't build anything before coming up to 10. So maybe that's the better option. And we're going into bots and Armada. I'm feeling much safer with Armada plays nowadays because they are really the way to go to build econ and units at the same time. I just feel a little bit like Cortex. Everything they do just costs a little bit extra for the functionality you actually get out of it. I might be wrong, it's very situationally dependent, but particularly being up here so exposed, I want to make sure I'm always producing units. We start right away with an early pawn. We're in a high OS lobby. I don't want to show any weakness. So this actually turns out to be a rockin' game, if I do say so myself, because people know how to play this. And we see some early aggression. I managed to stave it off. The top two players basically are just opposite us. So to say I'm feeling nervous is an understatement. The reason I got the central location is I usually get this location, and it is terrible. And like Lucy Love Lucy is a fantastic player. So let's see if they can hold on here. Got this early ticks that have sort of ran between our front lines. Well, not quite yet, but I'm sure they will. So we produce this pawn to sort of hold them off. Just in time. They want to get in, but no. I'll come up here and be a bit of a nuisance. Look how many units they're pulling off the front line. So really this is exposed for another tick push for 1-2. So it's a little bit of a mistake if you ever just go with one small group of ticks, followed up with another, and maybe another. Yeah, could have come through to these mexes here. I think in the end they do get countered. We unfortunately lost a mex, I think, this one here. Now this position here, who knows how to play it properly and actually survive, but Lucy Love Lucy does a really good job of bringing the commander up and some early thugs to just ensure they've got the maximum amount of, I suppose, mexes available and defences built across this line. Meanwhile, I've sort of pushed forward with about 10 pawns to let them know I'm not too weak a target. Very early dragons, more good to see. Oh no, a Janus missile, I wasn't watching. Ouchie. That's made me pull back. Look at this greed. What a bully. Oh no, so the Dragon Maw gets up. Oh no. So we have this early commander push and sacrifice. The commander was protecting the Dragon's Maw from getting degunned, but then basically got suicided upon. Very legit tactic. Perhaps Lucy Love Lucy was relying on that static defense there. Now this is the problem with building two forward static defenses. Is basically this, right? You want them to be a fallback line, not necessarily doing too much of the heavy lifting. Otherwise you are exposed to early game shenanigans like the commander bomb. But I have noticed that in these games is this player will always try and rush you here. It seems to be a consistent thing and will do anything to get that advantage. Of course, it's such a good commander bomb because they've been able to take the field afterwards. That's when you do the effective commander bomb. when you've got the advantage in units. Yeah, so I've sort of been poking forward and causing a little bit of distress for red as I can. I'm seeing about even damage numbers, so we're doing some effective assaults with these maces. Meanwhile, over here, just can't get enough units on the board. Interestingly, they've been left with a little bit of metal. I wonder if they're going to get reclaimed or resurrected. You know, XDA Apex is really owning here. Yeah, it's quite horrific how much Apex is owning. So this looks like it's game over at 7 minutes for poor old Lucy Love Lucy. Personally, I think you should possibly build defences here on the high ground and leave some of the heavy lifting to green. Yeah, but it was just Lucy couldn't have done anything there from that sort of tactical position. That was a really good play by Apex. So we're under the pump. This is really unfortunate. I'm not worried about any of this. I'm just happily bullying red now, like they bullied me early on. I'm not trying to take these mixes or anything, because these take like 100 seconds or so to pay themselves back. I'm not devoting any APM or resources to just get them blown up, basically. I've just got a very dynamic, even little force that can cost red for pushing forward with these laser towers. Yeah, my commanders are just waiting patiently to repair them in. So the Grave Robber's deciding here to reclaim rather than resurrect, which is surprising considering the basically metal glut that Apex has from all this reclaim. Here I am, still contesting the middle, and the commanders decide to come forward with no energy and try and degun me. No. Oh. Maybe because I'm the bottom ranked player, they don't think I can use thugs or maces, so finding out the hard way that a simple monkey can use those to take down a commander, particularly if you're out of energy. Now I've been asked before, what's a good time to start a T2 base? And I'm building mine at the moment at 10 minutes. Now it's got nothing to do with the time, quite often. I just want to note something here first. Like, look at this. Blue and myself have built mechs on the same mech spot, so I think that's a little bit of a bug. We both had it queued up. Mine's not producing anything, but costed me double the energy, whereas Blue's getting the benefit and half the energy. I don't know how that all works, so I think that's a bug in the game. But moving on, with the T2 lab, that can be built like as late as, I don't know, 20 minutes, depending on the game's going. As early as 8 minutes, depending on the game's going, or for eco, 6 minutes. With the T2 lab, I build it when I start getting metal glut. Okay, so the metal glut not just caused by perhaps my lack of build power, which can sometimes happen, but we can see it's definitely not the case here. I'm just a little bit low on energy, but it's not actually catastrophic. It is just enough to keep things rolling. So as we can see, we've pretty much taken down this commander. I've won the field. I'm about to do an attack on the enemy's base. And this time, as soon as I've taken down that commander, I think I've started thinking about building this T2 base, because we're looking at all this metal on the field. I don't know how to turn it on, sorry guys, but it's maybe a couple of thousand metal, maybe just below that. And that should fund this. And we don't even have to reclaim our T1 to easily afford this now, our T2 lab. And the reason we want it up super early here, and why I've been thinking about it, is we've got this plus 10 metal extractor, and I think that'll jump up to plus 40 metal extractor with a T2 on it. So this is going to be the difference between us having 30 metal a second and not. So really this is a huge priority for me. I retreat here. This is just way too crazy already. Now our blue is pushing forward quite effectively and kills the commander here. So the pink commander was just having to rely on the commander too much in the end and pays the penalty. See blue getting a lot done without many units, but has this vehicle plant right up the front ready to push. I like the optimism building Geo here after all that pressure. Chrono Police is contesting quite well here actually, holding up the gunworks on any further aggression. And then we see some extra Sheldons come in. It looks like we might hold here after all. Over here, I'm trying to fight this off the best I can. I have basically resurrected some units. Look at this! Goes flying. So at least it absorbed a shot. Trying to just wear these guys down a little bit. But I'm probably getting the worst of the trades by now because they've got this critical mass of vehicles which will tend to come out on top in these exchanges. That's okay, we're going to seed the ground. I didn't have anything built here anyway, and we're going to go up here for the extra vision and the beam cannon just in case. So we're up against an adversary which has got like 5 times the income we have almost, but particularly when you consider we've now got to build our T2. Okay, so commander down here. I think one must have been rezzed. Wow, this is heavily fought. We can see red threatening us, testing out if we're paying attention, which we barely are. But we've got the high ground. Oh, we've got this flyover of bombers. Holy shit. Well, blue's days are numbered, maybe. And the Geo. Oh, it's got so many hit points. Look at that. Was that all done with T1 lasers? The sentry saved the day. Near the Geo. Oh no, there was some air from our side. That was a very close thing. A huge back and forth battle under the way. We see this ultra veteran thug finally get taken down. Yeah, for whatever reason, there just wasn't enough forces put on the ground here to face off a few T1 units. The Sheldons ended up in a funny position. And I think the enemy just really smells weakness here. This is a very fair, thin force. Oh, look at this. Shivers. I guess we're at the 14-minute mark, and we see Shivers on the board. And up the top, we see this coordinated attack of these Marauders. Well, look how many there are at this early stage. Farmer Kit is just hiding away from this huge push. I'm sure it's done a tremendous job. But you can't stop that many well-microed Marauders with one commander. We see Spam, also very well coordinated attack here from 2 different players. Through to the back. Yeah, it's not looking good for us either. All these expensive T2 mechs is coming down. I don't see how is this going to be stopped. For real. Some grunts are on the way. We're almost getting a base trade at the moment, but we've seen Haxi has been able to take down the last of the Marauders, and Air's starting to respond now. So our attack's a little bit over, and now I've got to absorb this attack. Make Spybot Fiend or something. I don't know what Spybot Fiend is. I guess it's a combination. Spybots can launch an EMP, but these guys are pretty spread out, and I think just Shurikens would be better. This last one on 23%, 22%. All this build power is vulnerable. Oh no, getting greedy. Go on the APHIS. Won't have enough hit points to get the job done because the EMP. Look at this. Oh no, you got it! What a clutch. How clutch was that? We are not doing well either. Up top, these Marauders just keep on coming. Blossom with an X is showing what it's all about with the early T3 push. Super effective. That reactor just went down in 5 seconds flat. But red is responding with tanks. We've got an arrow from pink. Haxi's back with the D-gun. I just don't think it's going to be enough to... Oh, the D-gun misses. Oh no. Yep, all that up top is gone, which was predictable. And the attack's just not stopping with all the grunts. Oh wow. So that is 4 factories with 17 construction turrets. Just producing grunts. Yeah, and the fun doesn't end from the shivers. We've got a 0% health shiver here. just got disappeared. Maybe it was the same one. I might have to slow this down temporarily because there's just so many things happening at the moment. Even air. We've got this huge air battle and bombing run happen at the same time from our gaming GG. Oh, perfect bombing run. Took down maybe a fusion. I thought it was an APHIS at the start. Maybe it was an APHIS. That was a lot of bombers. Excellent stuff. These mammoths are an excellent choice, I personally think. Just for the amount of spam and how good they are against shivers. It is a little bit unrelenting though. Look at this 10 AA. With how many grave robbers? 41. Okay. Some support forces are on their way. Not looking good for us. For the enemy sides, Pink's using these demons to really throw back the grunt spam for the moment. We just see a different angle of attack. Now top's more or less under control. How's this attack going to go with the Marauders? Is it already too late in the game for Marauders? 19 minutes. I think the Marauders trying something else now. So a very well coordinated push from these guys. They're just basically probing. I don't know what happened to those grave robbers. Oh, here they are. Grave robbers over here now, getting the Cerebus back online. It's a pretty cool strategy actually, just to resurrect the base to support the attack. But look how hardcore these mammoths are. Just cutting through the shivers. It's not even close really. Just in time units coming off the production. I just feel if those grave robbers weren't there and it was just grunts or something a little bit earlier, I think this base would have been rolled. Maybe I'm wrong. Yep, okay, so team help has been the weakest link and is now out of play. Coming right round the side. So what am I doing? I've been, of course, producing hounds and trying to get the eco and reactors built. As we can see over here, I have one advanced energy converter. It's nothing miraculous, it's just enough to bring us out of pain. Yeah, I think these demons will push this northern attacking force back, especially the composition it's at of all grunts. Air's even hassling the units back here. Those AA must have been taken care of. Over this side, I'm managing to interdict all these Lazarus. A little bit of a mistake to just keep on queuing these up without sending them away. But maybe, maybe they're a meat shield, I don't know. We've just got one Marauder here that is going to show where bulls are a little bit obsolete. And flamers. So this hurts. I focus on that Marauder just for a little bit. That was a bit of sleight of hand from watching me do this. Although they lost that Marauder in the end. Look at how many flamers there were, or fiends. But I'm just producing hounds like a beast. That's why I love them. They're so cheap for this part of the game. And such good value. If you can keep them alive. One thing I am noticing about hounds though is they miss a lot, these pawns. Well, I'm not seeing it now actually, but see that this guy is sort of like a hero. You know, it's taking maybe double the shots than you would think, if not triple the shots at times, to take them down, even with the Gorse cannon. These mammoths are showing what it's all about with value. We're up against fiends now. I'm up at the top, really been unable to do anything against all these units apart from endlessly retreat. Ah, look, Spybot. And bombers. What a good coordination. Even against all this crossbows. They're trying to take us out, but it's not going to happen, bro. So against fiends and pawns, these hounds are starting to take a pretty heavy toll on the enemy. If I'm going to be honest, I thought the bottom front was a goner. And so I'm just so happy that I was able to sort of hold on long enough that I've been able to bring these hounds to come in. You'd call it a hound death ball, wouldn't you? Almost 100 combined kills. We've got our northern forces coming down now. I've produced some welders just to vary this unit mix-up so we can actually take down a bit easier some of this pawn army. Breaking the sentry on the hounds. I love these units. The welders are good too. They're about twice as tanky as the hounds. Not the greatest DPS in the world, but it's quite good against short-range infantry that are usually a bit harder to hit. Because it's not just about the DPS, it's about whether you can actually hit it. So I just wanted to view this, because I think the game's actually about to end. So we're pushing pretty hard on yellow. The game summary for me, in particular, has been pretty much, well, red ended up getting taken out in the end, just with those massive marauders, they end up getting run over. But we contested red in the early game and pushed them back. We killed their commander, and despite them getting an early T2 and being a little bit threatening, in the end they couldn't push back on us, so we sort of blunted them, and then we had blue to easily handle them also. But in the end, they could never really get any traction with all the top attack here and the enemy falling. But we also had our bottom fall, and it was pretty catastrophic. These guys holding on was just such a clutch victory in the end with the help from air, and they never ever gave up, no matter how bad it looked. So that was pretty cool. And then in the end, I had to wait for my eco to catch up, basically. Maybe I should have asked for T2 construction in the chat. I just wouldn't have thought it'd been that early. These sort of wider maps, I often find people won't share T2s, but maybe that's my misassumption in the high OS. I didn't see it in the chat, that's all. But basically, I just had to get some sort of bare bones economy, particularly reactors, because we're pretty much, the solars just weren't doing the job for me. And once I got that economy up, I could just pump out hounds like it's no tomorrow. And these guys have enabled me to sort of basically push back on this offensive and cull all the units. Particularly important was taking down the Lazarus, that mean they couldn't have this zombie army. And then we've been able to actually defeat yellow completely in the end. We would have overrun the bases here. So aggression on aggression is usually the key, but these guys were just too far back to do it. Unfortunately, I wish I could have come through with a bit of help a little bit sooner. I'm just not that good, so they had to wait for my noob ass to do it. But overall, I was pretty happy how I performed in this lobby. The killer also is going to be from up top here. We see all these sniper bots, marauders, and really there's nothing much opposed to stop them. So the enemy's going to resign any moment now. Yeah, so resign goes through. So if you're a newer player and you're wondering, hell, am I good enough ever for this game? Look, I'm a new player. I'm not new to RTSs, but I'm not any sort of expert master player. I'm just your average Joe. And I've, in a couple of months, been able to participate in the highest of OS lobbies and help turn the tide. Just my advice would be don't go to this sort of position here, or perhaps even the other one up here, because they always get pushed on. It's a weakness of this particular map. So you want to be really elite to play these positions, or just realize you're going to get sacrificed if you're playing them. But other than that, the central position's pretty good to come up, and you've got the high ground, and you've got, so I'd say this is actually pretty noob friendly. I recognize that, and I went up there. If you go hounds, you can add heaps of value. And obviously, if you're facing heaps of pawns, heaps of grunts, and units like this that are just, you take forever to hit, then you've got to vary it up and thread some welders in there. If you're facing just unbelievable amounts of Sheldons and that, you've got to get some snipers. It's all dependent on what the enemy is doing. I'm not sure if I showed it, but I actually batted back some Sheldons really easily, and you know, only sort of flamers stopped the Sheldons from basically all being killed. So they're not an invincible force at all against hounds. They only need to make one little mistake and the hounds are right on top of them. So overall, an okay game for me. If we look at the statistics in the end, an okay game from me, but really it was a team effort. Everyone played really, really well, as you'd expect in a lobby like this. Now, the overall statistics was, look at that energy produced, guys. That difference is just staggering. I think we got some scaling and metal produced. Now, I think it was this player here. I think it was blue that was responsible for just the ridiculousness of it. It wasn't just Blue, it was both our top guys. Yeah, and Blossom. So now we can see why their top just folded in the end, because our guys managed to establish a really solid eco. Our air actually had a really solid eco. When we look at the amount of energy produced, they produced 3.5 million, so they didn't have as many mexes to play with, but that's why we had such good air support. I never really got to scaling stage, so I'm probably the last in the whole team with actually producing metal, but I was just happy up there on my little island, making sure I wasn't going to die. But if we look at the bottom team, most players were actually around 40k or so, even Red in the end, which was their top player. And you can see why our bottom had so much trouble, because of the amount of resources facing off against us. So 115k from Apex and 109k here from Pharmakit. Really, it's something about this map, perhaps, or just what players pick. There must be a little bit more resources here, and that's why these areas here and here are pushed on firstly. You imagine you're attacking the center, right? I can get support from either side, but you attack down here, and there's really only one other player to help. Even I was a little bit too far away for much of the game to easily come down and intercede, up until I had a reasonable sort of T2 army, and also I wasn't getting pushed on from the front here. It just goes to show that every sort of map has its quirks, and the quirks here is basically we have a base trade happen on each side of the map. Despite the base trade meta being there, I think it still does come down to who actually scales properly the most resources, while not completely folding at the same time. We were just that little bit more greedier, so I think that enabled us to get the 25-minute victory. I hope you really enjoyed this game. I enjoyed it heaps. It's meant all the hard work has paid off that I'm able to play in a lobby like this and succeed. I hope you enjoyed this video. I certainly did. Leave a comment below and see you next video.